The ruins were silent, but not the silence of peace. It was the silence of fear, the kind that makes every step echo too loud. The human named Daniel walked carefully through the broken city. The sky above was red with dust. The buildings around him were torn open like the ribs of dead giants. Daniel was not a soldier, not a hero. He was just a mechanic. His hands were made for fixing broken engines, not fighting wars. Yet here he was, walking through a battlefield long forgotten, searching for spare parts that might still be useful. Then he heard it, a cry faint but sharp, like a knife cutting through the silence. It was not the cry of an animal, it was the cry of a child. Daniel froze. His heart started to beat faster. The ruins were dangerous. Many times voices had been used as traps, bandits, scavengers, even worse things that lurked in the shadows, but this voice sounded too weak, too real, too desperate. He followed the sound, his boots crunching over glass and broken metal. The air smelled of rust and smoke. As he turned a corner, he saw her, an alien girl, small, no older than 10 or 11 in human years. Her skin glowed faintly with a soft blue hue. Her hair was long and silver, tangled with dust and dirt. She was trapped under a collapsed beam of metal. Her tiny hands pushed weakly, her eyes wide with terror. Daniel felt his chest tighten. She was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way, but also fragile. Her glowing skin flickered. As if the light inside her was fading, she looked at him and whispered, "Help me." He ran forward without thinking. His hands grabbed the heavy beam. It was cold and sharp, cutting into his palms. He pushed with all his strength, his muscles screamed, his back burned. The metal didn't move at first. For a moment, he thought he would fail. Then the girl cried out again, and something inside him roared. He was not strong like soldiers, but he was stubborn. He pushed harder. His teeth clenched. Finally, with a loud groan, the beam rolled to the side. The girl gasped for air. Her legs were scraped, her arms bruised, but she was alive. Daniel knelt down and checked her carefully. "Can you move?" he asked softly. She nodded, though her body shook. He lifted her gently in his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Like carrying light itself, she clung to him. Her face pressed against his chest. Her silver hair brushed his chin. But the ruins were not safe. Daniel knew it. The sound of falling metal might have attracted attention. He stood quickly and looked around. His eyes scanned the broken buildings. The cracked roads, shadows moved in the distance. "Too fast, too silent, who are you?" he whispered to the girl, but she did not answer. Her glowing eyes only stared at him with fear and trust at the same time. He carried her through the ruins. Stepping carefully, every sound made him tense. Every gust of wind carried dust that stung his eyes. The city felt alive, as if the walls themselves were watching. Behind him, a low growl echoed. Daniel froze. He turned slowly. His breath caught in his throat. From the shadows came shapes, not human. Their bodies twisted, their eyes glowing red. Scavenger beasts that hunted the weak. Daniel's heart pounded. He was only a mechanic. He had no gun, no sword. Only his hands and the child he carried. The girl's grip tightened on his shirt. She whispered something in her alien tongue. Words he did not understand, but suddenly her skin glowed brighter. As if her fear woke a hidden light. The beasts hissed. Stepping back for a moment, confused, Daniel used that chance. He ran, his boots slamming against broken stone. The ruins shook as if the city itself wanted to crush him. His lungs burned, but he did not stop. He held the girl close, shielding her with his own body. Finally, he reached a collapsed archway and ducked under it. The beasts howled behind him but did not follow. The glowing light from the girl seemed to hold them back. Daniel collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The girl looked up at him with wide, shining eyes. "Thank you," she whispered in broken human words. Daniel gave a tired smile. "You're safe now," he said. Though he wasn't sure if it was true, the ruins were filled with secrets. And saving this girl might have just pulled him into something far greater than he could imagine. He did not know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Daniel did not rest long. The ruins whispered with danger. Every wall, every broken tower seemed ready to fall on them. The girl's glow had dimmed. Though her eyes stayed locked on him, she was scared. But there was something else in her stare, like she was testing him. He adjusted her in his arms and stood. His legs were heavy, but he forced them to move. The air was cold, filled with dust that scraped his throat. In the distance, fires burned in old craters, giving the ruins a red, hellish glow. "Where is your home?" he asked softly. The girl raised a trembling finger to the east, past broken highways and skeletal bridges. Daniel nodded. He didn't know if they could make it, but he had to try. He could not leave her here. The journey back was slow. Daniel had to move carefully, stepping over shattered glass. Rusted cars and crumbling stone, each sound echoed too loudly. The girl kept her head on his chest, but sometimes she whispered strange words in her alien tongue. Her voice was soft like a song. Daniel wished he could understand. Hours passed, the sun sank lower, turning the sky from red to deep violet. The shadows grew longer. The ruins felt even more alive at night. Daniel decided to stop for a short rest. He found the remains of an old market stall, broken wood and stone around it. He placed the girl down gently. She sat, hugging her knees, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dark. He gave her a piece of dry bread from his pocket. The girl sniffed it, then smiled weakly before eating. Daniel smiled too. "You're tougher than you look," he whispered. She looked at him again with those strange, glowing eyes, as if trying to see inside his soul, but the silence did not last. From somewhere far off came the echo of metal striking metal. Daniel stiffened. That was not the wind. It was not beasts either. That was the sound of weapons. He crouched low, pulling the girl close in the distance. He saw movement. 3 figures moving along the ruined street. Their shapes were not human. Tall, thin, with armor that shimmered like liquid, scavengers they were searching, their long weapons gleaming in the faint light. Daniel's breath grew shallow. If they saw him, he would not stand a chance. He held the girl close, whispering, "Quiet. Don't move." The girl obeyed, her glow fading as if she willed herself invisible. The scavengers passed, their eyes glowing yellow, their steps heavy, their voices were harsh. Like metal grinding, Daniel waited until their shapes vanished into the dust before standing again. His heart was still racing. He carried the girl once more. The path east was harder now. The roads were broken. Giant cracks ran across the ground. Daniel had to climb carefully. The girl held onto his shoulders, whispering in his ear, "Danger, not stop. Go." Her words were broken but clear enough. The night deepened. The stars appeared, cold and bright. Daniel finally found shelter inside a half-collapsed house. He sat against the wall, his back aching. The girl curled up beside him. The air was cold, and he wrapped his jacket around her small frame. He tried to sleep, but his mind stayed awake. He kept hearing the scavengers' voices, kept remembering the glowing beasts, and then he remembered the look in the villagers' eyes from years ago when they spoke about the tests. Strange stories whispered about how aliens judged humans. Could this be one of those tests? No, he thought, shaking his head. This was real. The cuts on his hands, the pain in his muscles, the girl's trembling body. None of this was an illusion. But as he looked at her glowing skin in the dark, he felt doubt creep in. Who was she really? Why did she have that light inside her? And why did her words sometimes sound like commands? Before he could think more, a sound made him freeze. A growl, low and heavy, just outside the broken house. Daniel's body turned to stone. He slowly looked at the doorway. A shadow moved there, huge, its eyes glowing faint red. A beast larger than any he had seen in the ruins. Its claws scraped the stone as it stepped closer. The girl woke and gasped. Her glow flared again, brighter than before. The beast stopped for a moment, confused. Daniel grabbed a broken iron rod from the floor. It was heavy and rusted, but it was all he had. "Stay behind me," he whispered. His hands shook, but he stood tall. The beast roared, the walls trembled, Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. Then something strange happened. The girl raised her small hand. Her glowing skin pulsed like a heartbeat. A wave of light spread through the air. The beast roared again. But instead of attacking, it backed away slowly, its red eyes dimming until it turned and vanished into the dark. Daniel dropped the iron rod. Breathing hard, the girl lowered her hand. Her glow fading again, she looked weak, as if the light had drained her. She collapsed against him, whispering only one word. "Home." Daniel held her close, his chest tight with fear and wonder. He knew then that this journey was far more dangerous and far more important than he had ever imagined. And still, unseen in the distance, more eyes watched them from the shadows. Waiting. The night was deep, and the ruins had gone quiet again. Too quiet, Daniel thought as he sat against the cold wall of the half-collapsed house. The alien girl slept beside him, her small body curled under his jacket. Her faint glow flickered like a candle in the dark. Daniel's eyes stayed open. He was exhausted, but his nerves would not let him rest. Every creak of stone, every distant echo felt like a threat. He kept one hand on the broken iron rod he had picked up earlier. It wasn't much, but it gave him a sense of courage. The girl stirred, her lips moved, she was whispering in her sleep. At first it sounded like soft singing, a melody that almost calmed him. But then he realized the words were not random. They carried weight, a rhythm like commands. Though he could not understand the alien language, the tone was unmistakable. It was the tone of someone giving orders, not a child begging. Daniel leaned closer. Her voice grew sharper, like a hidden strength breaking through her soft frame. Then suddenly she gasped. Her eyes opened wide. Glowing bright in the dark, she clutched his arm tightly, whispering in broken human words. "They come." Daniel stiffened. He turned his head toward the doorway. The night was silent, but his instincts screamed danger. He slowly rose, carrying the girl with him. His eyes searched the shadows outside. At first he saw nothing, only broken streets and the faint shimmer of starlight on metal ruins. Then far away a faint red glow appeared, like burning eyes, moving closer with steady steps. His heart raced. "We have to move," he whispered. The girl nodded weakly, her glowing skin trembling as if she felt the same dread. He stepped outside, holding her close. The night air bit into his skin. Dust swirled in the wind. The glow behind them grew stronger. Multiple red eyes now, not one but many. Shapes moving through the ruins. Silent hunters, Daniel gritted his teeth. He moved quickly, his boots crunching over broken stone. He didn't dare run too fast, afraid of making too much noise. But he knew he had to stay ahead, the girl whispered again, her voice soft but urgent. "Not beasts. Watchers." The word cut through him like ice. Watchers, that meant someone was following. Someone was observing. He thought of the scavengers from earlier. Their metallic armor, their searching eyes. Could they be the same? Or was this something else entirely? They slipped into an old tunnel half buried under stone. Daniel crouched low, his body shielding the girl. The air was damp and cold, water dripping from cracks above. He pressed his ear against the stone. Listening, the footsteps grew louder, echoing like drums. Suddenly the girl grabbed his shirt and pulled him close, her glowing eyes staring into his. She whispered in her alien tongue, fast and desperate. Then in human words, broken but clear, she said, "If they take me, you die." Daniel's breath caught. He wanted to ask her what she meant, but there was no time. Shadows passed over the tunnel entrance. Red light glowed against the stone. The hunters were just above them. He held his breath. His heart thundered in his chest. The girl pressed her face into his chest, her small body trembling for a long moment. He thought they would be found. Then the footsteps faded, moving past the tunnel. Daniel let out the air he had been holding. His hands were shaking. He had never felt so powerless before. He was a mechanic, not a fighter. Yet every step of this journey was forcing him into battles he was not ready for. The girl looked up at him, her eyes softer now. "Safe. For now," she whispered. Daniel nodded, though he didn't believe it. He could still feel eyes on him, watching from the dark. They rested for a short while inside the tunnel. Daniel tried to close his eyes, but again sleep would not come. The girl leaned against him, whispering faintly, not commands now, but words he could almost recognize. Her voice cracked, and he realized she was speaking of her family. A mother, a father, a home. Her words broke his heart. She was not only glowing with strange power, she was also just a lost child longing for her family. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll take you home," he whispered. The girl looked at him, and for the first time, she smiled, a small, fragile smile that lit up the darkness. But outside the ruins shifted again. The ground trembled. A low rumble echoed far away, like thunder rolling across broken stone. Daniel tightened his grip on the iron rod. His stomach twisted. He had the feeling the Watchers were not the only danger waiting for them. The girl closed her eyes again, whispering one last word before sleep took her. "Test." Daniel froze. His blood turned cold. Test, what did she mean? Was this entire nightmare planned? Were the beasts, the scavengers, even the Watchers just part of something bigger? He looked out into the dark ruins, his jaw tight. He didn't know who was pulling the strings. He didn't know why this child had been placed in his path, but one thing was certain. He could not turn back now, and in the distance, those red glowing eyes reappeared, closer this time, burning brighter. The night was far from over. The morning light came slow, breaking through the cracks of the ruined city like golden knives. Daniel had not slept at all. His body ached from carrying the alien girl through the night, but he forced himself to keep moving. The glowing red eyes from the darkness still haunted him, and the word she whispered in her sleep, "Test," echoed in his mind. The girl stirred in his arms. Her silver hair caught the morning light. Her glow was faint now, but steady. She looked up at him, her voice soft. "Home?" "Close." Daniel followed the broken road east. The ruins slowly gave way to hills covered in dust and wild plants that had managed to grow through cracks in the earth. It felt strange, like stepping out of a graveyard into something half alive. After hours of walking, he spotted smoke rising in the distance. Not black smoke from fire, but white and thin, the kind that came from cooking fires. A village, hidden between jagged rocks and broken hills. Relief washed over him. He tightened his hold on the girl. "Almost there," he whispered. But as they approached, something felt wrong. The village was not welcoming. The houses were made of stone and wood. Built low to the ground, strange flags fluttered on poles. Each symbol looked sharp, like warnings. When the villagers saw the girl, their eyes widened. Daniel expected them to run forward with joy, to cry out in relief. Instead, they froze. Some dropped what they were carrying. Some even backed away, whispering to one another. Fear, not happiness, filled their eyes. Daniel frowned. "What's going on?" he muttered under his breath. He stepped into the center of the village. The girl reached out a hand, pointing toward one of the larger houses. "Mother, there," she whispered. Her voice carried both hope and weakness. Before he could take another step, armored figures appeared. They moved from the shadows of the houses. Tall aliens dressed in black armor that shimmered like oil. Each carried a long weapon that glowed faintly with red energy. They surrounded him in seconds. Their leader, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His voice was cold. "Human, put the child down." Daniel tightened his grip. His heart pounded. "She needs help." "She said this is her home," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The armored alien's glowing eyes narrowed. The villagers whispered louder now, some pointing, some shaking their heads as if begging the guards to act. Daniel looked around in disbelief. Why were they afraid of the girl? The leader raised a hand. "Do as I say, or you will be cut down." Daniel swallowed hard. He was just a mechanic. He had no weapon besides the broken rod strapped to his back. But he couldn't just hand her over without knowing. He looked down at the girl in his arms. Her glowing eyes stared back at him. Not with fear, but with something else. Something stronger. "No," Daniel said finally. His voice cracked, but it carried weight. "Not until I know who she is and why you're so afraid of her." Gasps filled the crowd. The guards stepped closer, energy humming from their weapons. Daniel's chest tightened. He was seconds from being cut down. But then the girl slid from his arms. Standing on her own shaky legs, her glow grew brighter. Her silver hair lifted slightly as if a breeze touched only her. Her small voice echoed louder than before. "Enough," she said, not in broken words, but in perfect command. The guards froze. The villagers dropped to their knees. Murmuring prayers, Daniel's eyes widened. His heart hammered. The girl stood tall despite her small frame. Her glowing eyes locked on the armored leader. She spoke again, her voice steady and sharp. "You dare threaten the one who carries me home?" The leader of the guards lowered his weapon immediately, his head bowed. "Forgive us, my lady." Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. His mind spun. What had just happened? The fragile child he carried through ruins now stood like a queen giving orders. The villagers pressed their foreheads to the ground. Their fear was not of her being hurt. Their fear was of her power, of what she was. Daniel stepped back, his mouth dry. Who are you?" he whispered. The girl turned to him slowly. Her glow softened again. She looked at him not with command now, but with sadness. "You will know soon," she said softly. Her voice carried both kindness and mystery. Before Daniel could speak, the ground shook violently. A deep roar rolled across the hills. Louder than thunder. The villagers screamed. Running for cover, the guards raised their weapons. Faces pale with dread from the horizon, a massive shadow appeared. A machine towering over the hills. Its body made of black steel. Its eyes glowing like suns. It was no beast. No scavenger. This was war itself walking toward them. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at the girl, but her glow flickered with fear now. For the first time since she revealed her strength, she looked like a child again. The leader of the guard shouted, "Protect the lady, to arms!" Daniel gripped his broken rod. His hands shook, his mind screamed to run. the guards preparing for their final stand. He realized something that made his chest ache. They were all looking at him, the human, the outsider, the one who had carried their air through fire. He wanted to scream that he was no leader, no warrior, but the girl's small hand gripped his once more. Her glow spread faintly into his skin, warm and steady. He felt her trust, her hope. The wall shook as the invaders pounded against the stone doors. The guards braced for impact. Daniel stood slowly, his rod in hand, his body trembling but his voice steady. "Then we don't run anymore," he said. "We fight." The girl's eyes glowed again, brighter now. Her lips curved into a faint smile. The doors cracked, light and fire bursting through. The unthinkable attack had begun, and Daniel, the mechanic, the human, the ordinary man, stood ready to face it. The stone doors cracked under the force of the invaders. Each strike shook the hall. Dust rained from the ceiling. Villagers huddled together, their faces pale with fear. The guards stood in a circle with weapons drawn, ready to die if needed. Daniel stood in the center, the alien girl beside him. His hands trembled around the iron rod. His heart pounded so loud it drowned the roar of cannons outside. He wanted to run, he wanted to live. But when he looked at her glowing eyes full of trust, he knew there was no turning back. The doors finally burst open, the enemy stormed in. Black-armored soldiers with burning red eyes. Their weapons glowed with heat. Their march shook the floor. For a moment the guards faltered, but Daniel stepped forward, raising his rod high. "Stay behind me," he shouted, his voice carried through the hall. Strong and clear, the soldiers charged. Daniel swung with all his strength. The iron rod cracked against armor. Sparks flew, he staggered but did not fall. A guard beside him struck another soldier. The hall exploded into chaos. The girl's glow flared again, but she was weak. Daniel could feel her leaning against him. He realized she was giving him strength, feeding him her light every time he thought he would fall. Her glow steadied his hands. The invaders pressed harder. Daniel fought like a man possessed. His arms burned, his legs shook, but he kept swinging. He knocked one soldier to the ground, shoved another into a wall. He was no warrior, but his heart refused to yield. The leader of the guards roared, "Protect the lady!" as he cut down 2 enemies at once, but more poured in, endless. Their red eyes filled the hall like a storm of fire. Then came the sound that froze everyone, the heavy stomp of something bigger. The war machine from the hills entered the hall. Its massive frame filled the doorway. Its red eyes glowed like suns. Its cannon hummed with deadly power. The villagers screamed. The guards broke formation. All hope seemed lost. Daniel felt the girl grip his hand. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. She whispered, her voice soft but steady. "You must choose." "Choose what?" He shouted over the roar of battle. "Your life," she whispered, "or mine if you give me to them. They will stop. If you stand with me, we may both fall. But your choice will decide more than this village. It will decide the future." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at her small face, her silver hair tangled with dust, her fragile body glowing faintly. She was a child, but also something greater, heir to a throne, symbol of a people. And somehow, she was looking at him as if he was the one who held the power. The war machine raised its cannon. The hall lit up with red fire. Daniel made his choice. He pushed the girl behind him and stepped forward. His iron rod raised. "If you want her," he roared, his voice shaking the walls, "you'll have to go through me." The machine fired. The beam shot forward. Daniel braced for death. But at the last moment, the girl screamed. Her glow exploded outward, a wave of pure light that swallowed the hall. The beam vanished, the soldiers staggered. Their red eyes dimming, the war machine froze, groaning as if crushed by invisible chains. Daniel fell to his knees, the rod slipping from his hand. His chest heaved, he could barely breathe. But when he looked up, he saw the impossible. The invaders were retreating. Their weapons dropped, their armor cracked. The war machine collapsed to the ground. Lifeless, smoke hissed from its joints. The hall was silent. The villagers slowly raised their heads, their eyes wide with awe. The girl stood in the center of the light, her glow softening. Her small body trembled. She looked at Daniel with tears in her glowing eyes. "You chose me," she whispered. Her voice broke, but it carried across the hall. "No one has ever chosen me." Daniel pulled himself up. His body screamed with pain, but he managed to stand. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "I didn't save you because of who you are," he said, his voice raw. "I saved you because you're worth saving." The guards dropped to one knee. The villagers bowed low. Even the leader pressed his forehead to the ground before Daniel and the girl. The girl turned to her people, her small frame straight and proud despite her weakness. "You see now," she declared, her voice strong again. "This human is not like the others. He carries heart greater than any blade, and with him, we will rise again." Daniel stood beside her. Confused, exhausted, but strangely calm. He had no idea what her words truly meant. But deep inside, he knew his life would never return to what it once was. The village slowly filled with light, not from fire, not from destruction, but from hope. The unthinkable had happened. A human mechanic, armed with nothing but a broken rod and courage, had stood against an army, and in choosing to protect a child he barely knew, he had changed the fate of a people. Daniel did not know it yet, but the galaxy would remember his choice for generations.